Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, um, host of DataNation. So probably, hopefully, you've been listening to my podcast already. So that's you can find that on iTunes, Google Play. Also, I also full time I'm a developer advocate at Dremio, talking about data lakehouses and data lakehouse concepts all the time. But bottom line, I am starting a new DataNation YouTube channel because data is cool, and I want to help kind of get the word out there about like data terminology and data practices and all that stuff. So this is the first video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment and share the video with friends. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, go subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and iTunes. You can also join the Slack community over there at datanation.click, and you can also find my Twitter over there at alexmerceddata.com. Okay. Now, bottom line today, in this first video, we're going to be talking about an intro to data. Actually, this is going to be a series of videos, and the first topic we're going to be getting into is what is data. Okay, just kind of like what is data, what are the different types of data, in some of this basic terminology. And again, in each video, we're going to introduce more and more terminology, and then we're going to start getting into actual like hands-on type exercises with different tools, different types of databases, data architecture, getting more into like big data. So lots of really cool stuff in the videos to come. But if you're new to the data world, this is a great place to start. So what is data? Bottom line, it's the numbers, okay? Well, not just the numbers, but any kind of facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. So it's the stuff, it's the information that you use to analyze so that way you can come up with decisions, okay? You make decisions based on data, okay? You discover things based on data. So this doesn't necessarily have to be mathematical, numerical information. It's going to be any information that you can use to derive, discover, create insights, come up with decisions. Okay? But in that, generally, because of that, data is going to generally fall into one or two buckets. It's either going to be structured data. This is the data that we generally think about. So we think of like your typical like Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet, where all the data is kind of organized into columns and rows, and everything's kind of uniform and very structured to understand. And generally, most data will be structured when it can be, because structured data is just going to be a lot more applicable to using technological tools on, because basically by having that structure, that schema, basically tools can then be like, okay, hey, this is what the data looks like, and then be able to like work with the data to kind of let you query the data, let you manipulate the data, let you do all sorts of fun things to derive insights and dive deeper into that data. But then there's unstructured data. This would be like an audio recording, okay? And there are tools to analyze like audio recordings. Like, you could do a search and then it'll pick up on the audio, but the idea is that it's not structured data. It's not organized in the same way that a spreadsheet would be. This could be emails, which is a bunch of, unorganized text blobs, okay? But the idea is that this data doesn't have some sort of like, there isn't some sort of contract. There isn't something, you can't go into this data expecting that the data will look a particular way. There's no contract, okay? In a sense, there's no guarantee that the data will look like X, which can be more difficult to work with when it comes to technological tools. But there are tools to work with unstructured data. But again, unstructured data and structured data could still fall into even more further subcategories. Okay, they could be qualitative or quantitative. Okay, qualitative data is generally going to be data that is more observational in a sense. So it's not like hard numbers, like for example, colors. So for example, nominal data are going to generally be as a type of qualitative data where basically there's a set number of values, but they don't belong in any kind of order. So like there's a certain number of colors that you can buy an iPhone in. But like let's say the colors were like black and white. There's no order. There's no like black comes before white or white becomes before black. They're just distinct values. And generally I can't do like mathematical operations on them. I can't like add black to white. I can't, I can create other types of data from that. Like I can count how many black phones there are, but that would then be a different data point than the actual data point of the possible colors of an iPhone. Okay, so that would be a nominal data point. But then there's other qualitative data that is ordinal. So think of like t-shirt size. Okay, so small, medium, large. So even though it's not a number, it's not something I can do mathematical operations with, there is an order. Okay, small comes before medium, which comes before large, which comes before extra large, and so forth. So there is sort of an order that does express some sort of information. So those are the types of qualitative data, okay, that we can like track. Then there's like quantitative data, which could be in the form of like discrete data, which just means whole numbers. So basically, these are things that I can count. Like I can count how many students are in a classroom. But there's no fractional student. I don't have like 23.36 students in a class because there's no such thing as a fractional person. Um, so like that would be discrete data. So these are things generally like physical things I can count, like how many notebooks are in a room, how many people showed up to the concert, how many drinks did we sell that night. It is a quantitative, it is a number. You can do math operations with it, but generally it's going to be like the one number or the next number. There's no like shades of gray in between. Well, something like the temperature, okay, there is a whole world of shades of gray between like 50 degrees and 51 degrees. And that would be continuous data. So this is where you do have like fractional units between whole units. Um, so basically you have a much more shades of gray. Generally you're going to represent the data through like decimal points and whatnot. And this just kind of helps you sort of thinking about sort of like the characteristics of the data, which can then lead to sort of like, how would I represent this data in a chart? How would I go about analyzing these data? So like understanding what type of data you have, structured, unstructured, nominal, ordinal, discrete, continuous. Like again, that's kind of like the first step, or like what data am I seeking to find? These are generally going to be the initial questions you ask at the beginning of any journey, because you then have to go get the data and then clean the data and then actually run analytics on the data. But generally, like understanding sort of what are the questions you're looking to ask and what kind of information will answer those questions will certainly help you kind of come up with like, hey, what am I looking for? What information am I looking to gather? So I can plan sort of like my data life appropriately. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is like sort of the first video, hopefully, of many. If you have any questions, you can always email me at alex@alexmerceddata.com. You can go find my Twitter account over there at alexmerceddata.com. Join the Slack community over there at datanation.click. Make sure to subscribe to the DataNation podcast over there on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at amdatalakehouse, where I'll be tweeting all sorts of fun data stuff, particularly around the data lakehouse. But there's a lot of other cool stuff that I'll be talking about throughout on the podcast in this YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. Have a great day. I'll see y'all later.